Hey guys, I was going to do this part of the video at the end of the video, but I just want to put it here because of the length of the video. I really wanted to make this within 12 minutes. I wanted to do my Draw My Life thing, but it actually ended up being about twice as long as what the video is. I left out a lot of the really sad stuff that happened and a lot of the really sort of stuff that would affect my mum more so than me if she ever watches this. So I love you, Mum, and I love all you guys back home, and I love you, Lauren, and thank you to everyone that watches this video. And I apologise for how long it goes for. So thank you guys. I'll see you all on Twitch and on my YouTube. Peace, guys. Hey guys, Ryan here. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. Since I've been streaming on Twitch, a lot of people have asked me to do a Draw My Life. And at first I wasn't going to do it, but I've decided I'm going to. So this is my Draw My Life. I'm sorry it's a bit of a sad story, I guess. But I'm not going to say everything. I am going to leave a lot out, just out of respect for my mum. But I hope you guys enjoy this video, and I'm sorry if it is a bit of a sad one. So most of you guys know me as Dakshong Now. My real name is Ryan, and most of you guys that know me from Twitch know me as Chinglish. To be honest, I don't really remember much about my childhood, so I'm just going to try and say all the stuff that I can actually remember. So I'm from Australia, and I was born in a place called Western Australia. The town that I grew up in for a small part of my life was Fremantle. So this is me as a baby. I was actually quite a small guy when I was younger. I don't really know what happened, but I was very, very small when I was young. So it was myself, my mum, my real dad, and my brother. For whatever reason, my mum and my real dad, I've never really asked to this day what happened, but they didn't work out. So it ended up just being my mum and me. And that's where things got interesting, I guess. So I wasn't really too sure what was going on, but like I said, I can't really remember much of what happened back then. But I know throughout my life and as I was growing up, I was sort of concerned and didn't really know what happened. But yeah. From memory, the next part of my life, and from what I've spoken to my mum about when I got a little bit older, was for the next 4 years I grew up in the bush. So I actually lived around a lot of Aboriginal tribes in Australia, and sort of just used to run around the bush naked, and I didn't wear shoes until I was about 4 years old. As we left living in the bush, I don't really remember too much again of sort of what went on or what happened over the next few years. Unfortunately, the only sort of memories that I have is when mum would have a new boyfriend, and he would be quite violent towards me and violent towards mum. And I remember just sort of sitting around and watching my mum get hit or myself get hit, and sort of wishing I could do something. And mum's new boyfriend would be yelling, and they'd be fighting, or I'd be getting whacked, or she'd be getting whacked. And I don't really remember too much else, unfortunately, about my childhood rather than that. So that sort of sucks. So I couldn't tell you the exact age when this happened, but Mum decided that we were going to travel around Australia around 4 times, I think, in a car. So we got a combi van, and pretty much put all of our life into a combi van, and just started driving. And yeah. So as much fun as travelling around was in a car around Australia, it was really, really hard. As being a kid, I would have to go to a new primary school, and as I got older, it would be a new high school. Every town that we went to, and it was really hard. It was really, really hard. Like I said earlier, when I was younger, I was actually a really, really small guy. And being the new kid in high school, I got picked on a lot. I used to get beat up a little bit, and kids would say mean things, and they would really treat me quite badly, and I guess that didn't help. And unfortunately, the more and more schools that you go to being a kid, it didn't really change much from school to school. Generally, being the new kid is frowned upon in all schools. So for whatever reason, Mum decided that we were going to move to Tasmania. Now, if you don't know where Tasmania is, that's a little island underneath Australia that's still counted as a part of Australia. And that's where things started to get interesting. I guess I was getting a little bit older, still very young, but things started to change. So while we're in Tasmania, Mum met a new boyfriend named Adam, who would be a part of my life for quite a long time. Adam was a good stepdad, I guess I can call him that, in a sense of he would protect me from anything. He was very protective of me. But as time went on, I sort of started to realize what was going on. The longer we were in Tasmania, it was more and more of a drugs presence in my life. Unfortunately, Mum had a fair bit of issues with marijuana that eventually turned into other things. And Adam was actually a very important criminal, I guess you could say. And things just started to get heavier and heavier. Mum did the best she could to keep me away from it, so I wouldn't know what was going on. But unfortunately, as you get a little bit older, you start to see these things, and you start to realize what's going on. And that sort of sucks. So the more and more the drugs became a problem, I was sort of not left alone. Mum was still a good mum, the best she could be in the situation, but I guess it was just me and my skateboard. I didn't really have a lot of friends, and I was still new to Hobart, so it was sort of always just me and my skateboard. And skateboarding was really a big part of my life, and I really enjoyed music and lyrics really helped me. But Mum and Adam, they started to fight a lot, and it was very violent between the two of them. And Mum was just not in a good place, and neither was Adam. And that was really hard to see because they were very violent. Unfortunately, drugs and very serious drugs do really bad things to people. So as much as Adam was a great stepdad, and he taught me a lot of things in life, unfortunately for him, through mistakes that he's made in his life and choices that he's made in his life, he'd actually been in prison, if I just go off from today, he's been in prison for easily over 20 years of his life. And he seems to have a bit of a problem with authority, and like I said, he was quite an important criminal, and unfortunately that meant a lot of prison time for him. So unfortunately Adam, even though he'd been in and out of prison, still kept doing bad things. And it was pretty daunting for me because I obviously the police were around our house quite often, and I remember when I was like 8 getting strip searched by the police because they thought that I would have drugs on me or something like that, so that was pretty scary, I guess. But like I said, I'm going to leave a lot of things out in this video of all the really bad stuff. But yeah, unfortunately, I was sort of confused because I didn't know if that was it. We weren't going to see Adam again because from what I knew, he was going to go to prison for 10 years for something that came up. So instead of taking the charge or whatever he was going to be charged for, which was going to give him a 10-year sentence, Mum and my stepdad decided that we were going to leave Tasmania. We were going to flee the country, I guess. So we pretty much packed our lives into a backpack again, and I pretty much just had my clothes and my skateboard, and we got a little boat from Tasmania to Melbourne. So when we got to Melbourne, I met my stepdad's father, and he was a very intimidating and very scary man, and he was a very mean man, and my stepdad is probably the scariest human being I've ever met in my entire life, and he was very intimidated by his father, and unfortunately his father passed away quite soon after we visited. But I was starting to get a little bit older, and I was still very confused about what was going on and where we were and why we were here and why I'm meeting these weird people that I had no idea who they were. So after a little while, my parents decided that they wanted to go to Western Australia again. Unfortunately, drugs were still a huge part of their life at this time. So we got in the car and we started going to Western Australia. Along the way, now that I'm a little bit older, I realised how Adam was making his money while we were travelling. And yeah, he had a lot of clothes that he threw away because I guess he didn't want to get seen on camera again with those clothes on. So, yeah. So as it happens, when we got to Western Australia, the police caught up with my mum, my stepdad. And this is where stuff got really hard for me. So, because the government didn't know what to do with me, they put me in a house where kids go before they go to juvenile prison. So I was there for a year. And this house was pretty much for kids that weren't old enough to go to juvenile prison yet, or they're awaiting a court date or something like that. And it wasn't a very, very nice place. You had to be at school by 9:30 and you had to be home by 3:30. Or if you were found, you got arrested and taken back to the house. There was workers there 24 hours a day. And it wasn't a good time. So this house that I was in, like I said, it was for kids that had been in trouble with the police more than once or a lot of times. And the kids that were there, I pretty much had to grow up very, very quickly. I would get beaten up every day and beaten up by more than one person a lot. Every day. You had to learn to be a man very, very quickly. And me, a kid that had never been in trouble in my life and enjoyed riding my skateboard, that wasn't a very nice place. And I was there for a year. So after a year, the government found my real dad, and I was pretty damn excited. I was still quite a small guy, but I was very excited to meet my real dad. And unfortunately, things didn't really go well between us. My brother and my dad are very stern, very hard men, and my mum was a bit of a hippie. Even though she'd been in trouble, she was a very loving mum, and I grew up with just having my mum in my life. And I had a lot of love for people, and unfortunately that wasn't the case with my dad and my brother. They were very, very tough. So it was around this time in my life where I was with my real dad and I was with my brother, and realistically that's the most family I'd ever had in my life, and I'd never felt more alone. It didn't matter how much went on in the past, and there's a lot of stuff that I'm not talking about out of respect for my mum. It just, honestly, I couldn't seem to find anything. I felt so alone all the time. And it just sort of felt like everything wouldn't work out for me. I remember being really quite young and sort of trying to turn to religion and trying to ask myself, like, maybe please, can someone help me? To this day, I'm not a religious man, but I remember back then just sort of asking and praying and pleading for someone to be there and someone to help me and just someone, I guess, to love me, I guess, because at this point in my life, I was very much alone. And after that, obviously didn't work. Unfortunately, as strong as I was and as strong as I'd always been, I got to a point where I honestly thought about killing myself quite often. And I didn't really want to be here anymore. I was with my real dad and my brother, and there was just no love there. We're just from different worlds. And I honestly thought about jumping off a bridge or ending my life in some sort of way. So after about being with my real dad for about 6 months, my mum and stepdad got out of prison. They decided they weren't going to extradite my stepdad, and yeah, I was very, very excited. And as many mistakes as my mum has made in her life, she's still my mum, and I was very, very happy to be back in the arms of my mum. So instead of doing the right thing, my parents decided they didn't want to wait out the court cases or wait out whatever was going to happen, and they decided they were going to run away again. So we packed our stuff into a backpack again, and we went to Sydney, and that's pretty much where my life started to get really, really difficult. So when we got to Sydney, my high school that I went to was called Cantervale High, and there was 5 white kids in my entire high school. Now I travel around Australia a lot and lived in Tasmania for the last couple of years, and I actually thought all Asian people were Japanese. That's not a joke. I was wrong. So we're in Sydney for about 1 week, and life seemed really, really good. And after about 2 weeks, let's say a week and a half, stuff started to go downhill. And about 2 weeks later, I sort of came home. My parents went home, and I was very confused. I was like, okay, we're in a new city. I don't know any of my family. I don't know my real dad's number. I don't know anyone else in my family. What do I do? And after about 2 weeks, I pretty much realized I was alone. So being in this big city, I didn't really know what was going on until later on. I found out that my parents had gone to prison again. I found out quite a few years later. And I'd only just moved to Sydney, and I didn't really have any idea of what or where I was going to go. And that's where stuff got really hard. Because unfortunately, being just a 14-year-old boy, I didn't have much trust in the government, so I didn't want to go back to the government and get stuck in a house where I was going to get beat up again. So I was very confused with what I was going to do. So unfortunately, because I didn't know anyone, I had nowhere to go. This meant that for me, I had to sleep on the street for quite a long time. And I don't really remember too much about it. All I remember, it was really cold. And that sucked. So I've always been the type of person that believes that there's no use crying about stuff, you just have to do something about it. So I got a job as a chef apprentice while I was still going to school. And I would do anything and everything I could to get money. To this day, and I've never begged in my life for a cent. And I'm very proud of that. And that was one of the main things that kept me motivated. And I was 14 years old, and I was going to school and working full-time hours as a chef apprentice. And that was pretty rough. So just through working and just my little interest that I had, and I was really interested in this company called Games Workshop. And I used to go there a lot, and I used to paint the little figures and have fun there. And that's where I met Adam. And he's honestly one of the people that saved my life. Adam became one of my best friends and closest friends I've ever had. So after a while, Adam sort of worked out, even though we were both pretty damn young, that stuff wasn't going right in my life, or something was going on. And he actually asked me to come and live with him and his family for a while. And his family said okay. So we used to share a room, we had bunk beds. And it was honestly still to this day some of the best times of my life. And I owe that man my life. So this is where computer games started. Adam was quite already involved with computers and knew quite a bit about computers. And me being quite a poor little kid with not a lot of money and on a chef apprentice wages, I actually found out that I was quite good at buying and selling in Diablo 2. And it pretty much became my full-time job, buying and selling items in Diablo 2. And I was making some good money. So growing up with Adam, obviously as we started to get a little bit older, I couldn't stay at his parents' house forever. That's not fair to them. They have 2 kids of their own, but I just wanted to make this little picture, and it's very simple. But growing up with Adam and those times in my life, without him, I definitely wouldn't be here anymore. He definitely saved my life more than once, just through friendship. I hope people realize how much they can affect people's life just by being there for someone. So I ended up getting my own place, and this was very exciting for me. It was a share house through a youth organisation called Western Housing for Youth in Sydney. And they do like a reach out program and give young teenage youth that have been through some hard times cheap rent. And that was the start. That was the first time I ever got my own place. So it was always Adam and I hanging out. And one day I met Anthony, and this was the other guy that I consider my brother, and the two guys that I would absolutely do anything in the world for. And Anthony was a metal vocalist, and he was one of the nicest guys. And again, this guy has honestly saved my life more times than I can count, and we've been there for each other through thick and thin. So and then there was his friend Daniel, and he was also one of those guys that really helped me. And this is where we started our little Nine Lives crew. So through Anthony being in a band, we met a lot of people, and the other guys in his first band, and guys that we met through other bands and bands that we ended up touring around Australia with, and these guys became like family. As you've heard now, I didn't really have much of a family growing up, and I was pretty much alone for a lot of the time. And that's why I can honestly say these guys that became Nine Lives Crew and these guys that became my friends were honestly my family, and I would do absolutely anything for them. And I owe every single one of those guys, for a different reason, my life. And they've all been there for each other, and that's what it was about for me. So like I said, Anthony was a singer in a band called As Silence Breaks, and he ended up leaving that band after we toured around Australia a lot of times, and joining a band called Vegas in Ruins. And through them and one of my other friends' bands, Resist the Thought, I got to tour a lot. So we did lots and lots of tours around Australia. Never out of Australia, but it was an absolute, some of the best times of my life. With 6 dudes hanging out in a van, driving around Australia, doing really fun shows. So it was around this time where my mum and my stepdad actually got out of prison. And they found me at Games Workshop because I was still really interested in that company, and I would still hang out there. And a couple of the guys there had my phone number, and gave it to my mum. And I was really hesitant at first. I didn't really know how to feel. But they actually asked me to move in with them because they got given an apartment that they could stay out for a while. And at first I was really hesitant, but at the end of the day, it was still my mum, and I was going to trust her, and it's your mum, you know. So that lasted around 2 months. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, they both went back to prison after about 2 months. And yeah, I was that hit me pretty hard that time. So after that, I felt pretty alone again because I didn't really know what to do or how I felt, because I was actually old enough to comprehend what was going on. But thanks to all the love and all the support of all my friends that I'd met over those years of being alone, these guys made me feel like I had more family than I can ever ask for. And they would never let me have a sad day in my life, because they were always there for me. And especially Anth and Adam and Clark and Bestie and Rick and all these guys, and Dusty, and just all these guys that are always there. Daniel, just there's names I could go on and on and on with. And these guys made me feel like I had the biggest family I could ever ask for. So after that time, Adam and Anthony and myself, we grew up. That's what happened over the next few years. We got jobs, and Anthony left his band, and I got him a job working with me, and Adam was working in security, and I ended up actually working for him as well, and we were bouncers together, and I worked during the day with Anthony, and we all worked together, and it was all fantastic. Anthony had been straight edge his whole life. When I was 20, I decided that I'd seen enough of what drugs do to people and alcohol does to people, and I decided that I was going to be straight edge, and it was an easy decision. So as I got a little bit older, my mum got out of prison, and I was very happy for her. But my mum decided she was going to move back to Western Australia as there was too many drugs and stuff like that in Sydney. And that hit me pretty hard, but I decided that I was going to stay in Sydney because my friends that I had made there were my family, and I couldn't leave them. So over the next couple of years, I just continued to work and do those things that you do when you grow up. And then one day after work, this cute little Canadian girl walked up to me and said hi and told me that she liked my tattoos. And after a little while of us hanging out, she had to go back to Canada. And she actually asked me to move with her. And I said yes. And that's how I ended up in Canada. It's been pretty damn fantastic so far, and I'm definitely in love. So in those few years where I was growing up back in Sydney and doing those things that you do when you grow up, I sort of stopped playing computer games and just sort of worked as much as I needed to pay the bills. And when I got to Canada, it hit me really hard because I didn't really have my friends there around, and it was just sort of me by myself with Lauren. And that was really, really hard for me. So now that I had a lot more free time, I decided to pick up the computer again, and I started playing games, and I started meeting these guys from this guild called Dara McTier, and especially a guy named Binbash. And we started playing Guild Wars 2 together. And I got asked pretty quickly to join Dara, and I started doing stuff for Dara in World of Warcraft, and things were getting really crazy, and I was getting asked by a lot of people, do you live stream? And I didn't really know much about it. Do you have a YouTube? And I didn't really know much about that either. And Lauren was really, really, really supportive when I said that I wanted to concentrate more on gaming. And I was working security in Canada, but I was working security in a really dangerous area. And I said to Lauren, I really want to try and give this whole streaming thing a shot. And she was so supportive, and I thank her so much for that. And that's sort of where this chapter started. So I started making videos, and that was pretty slow. Like, it wasn't over the top fast or anything like that, and I was getting pretty sad, and I'd be happy again. You know, I'd get a couple of thousand views on my videos, and I'd be sad, and Lauren would tell me to keep trying, and then I started doing stuff on Twitch, and I started getting comments from people like Swifty and Soda Poppin really helped me, and Bajira really helped me, and Douglas really helped me, and all these guys really started to help me and boost my channel. And that's when stuff changed. So I started doing the whole Twitch thing a bit more full time, and that was around 2 months ago. And at first it was like I would get 1 view a day, and then my channel had 100,000 views, and then my Twitch channel had 200,000 views, and then 600,000 views. And I made a chip in saying I'd love to go to DreamHack with Soda Poppin'. And then through donations and people showing me love from my Twitch and enjoying me streaming, I made enough money to be able to pay the rest myself, to be able to go to DreamHack, and to be able to go to BlizzCon this year. And to do these things that I've never had a chance to do in my entire life. I never thought that I would be able to do. So Lauren and I talked, and I decided that I want to try and stream full time on Twitch. And that's 2 months ago. And the last 2 months have been absolutely fantastic, and has honestly changed my life. And I'm doing these things that I never thought I could ever do. And yeah, it's been pretty crazy. So I guess this next part is just a thank you to everyone that supported my YouTube and everyone that supported my Twitch, and a really big thank you to all my friends back home who I miss every second of every day. I miss them all. And a really big thank you to Lauren for supporting me to do this, as a lot of girlfriends wouldn't. So this part is just a thank you to everyone that's watched my videos, or anyone that shares this video. Thank you to you guys, and a huge thanks to John and Potato, 2 guys that have been donating to me a fair bit and are really helping my dreams come true.
and to every single other person that's given me $1 donation, up to people that have donated more. Thank you to you guys. You have no idea how much you're helping my life.